as soon as we're actually going live, Karina will send us a little message, and then Facebook will start loading it up.
It says we're live on Facebook.
We are now live.
So apparently, that is it. Let's do a refresh. And we are live. Okay, so Facebook is open. We are now broadcasting. We are still on 3:25, so we'll give everybody the final couple of minutes before we actually get started.
Good.
Any of you guys actually managed to get in the water recently? I mean, Adam's just annoyed me saying he's going diving. Janine, you have, huh?
I have. Loving every minute of it.
Nope, sadly not allowed yet.
I did a shore dive last week. We're doing a shore dive tomorrow.
Okay. So does that mean if you can do a shore dive, that means like all diving activities are now permitted? You can take like a boat out, or?
Not officially, but in utility, yes.
They're letting you take the boat out already?
Huh?
They're letting you take the boat out?
Yeah, we took it out a couple weeks ago, and we're taking it out again next week.
Oh yeah, no, from the 8th of June, we're allowed again.
Yeah.
Theoretically, they're starting phase 0, so
but
we'll see.
The Utila mayor has not really been following it as tightly because we haven't had a case.
When you say you're able to like take that boat out unofficially, officially, is that like under the cover of darkness and then you sneak back in again, or?
Oh no, we're patrolling the waters around the island, so you do not sneak out at night. Basically, you just report into the harbor master, give them a list of who's on the boat, and then when you come back in, you show them, okay, the same people are still here.
Okay.
Just so we haven't lost anybody or picked anybody up.
Yeah, but they started to here in the UK. They've now given permission for for sea diving, for coastal diving, so people can do shore diving and take a boat out. Of course, following all the social distancing that you need to do. We're still waiting on the inland sites. So a lot of the training locations, lakes and quarries and stuff, they still haven't opened up yet, but it's not going to be too long, I don't think, to wait.
And we're not doing training. It's just more lionfish hunting or getting out and,
So what happens with those, and excuse my ignorance, so with the lionfish, of course, and I know like in those regions you have huge amounts of lionfish that you have to hunt them to keep their numbers down. Do you think like their numbers would have gone up significantly given the absence of divers over the last 2 months?
I really thought they would have, but our first shore dive where I normally find 3 or 4 or 5 lionfish, we didn't see any.
Wow, okay.
Now maybe people got out there before us, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figured 30,000 eggs every 4 days. I figured we'd be seeing a bunch of them, but they're also very smart.
Smart in that they've gone into hiding, or they heard you coming and they swam away?
Well, yeah, basically they go where the dive sites aren't, or they're hanging out deeper.
Yeah. I just kind of assume with lack of divers being in the water that they would maybe get a little bit complacent, actually.
That's exactly what I thought too.
Yeah, hopefully.
I was looking for a happy hunt that first dive.
Okay, so we got some people coming into the room. We have, used to be my neighbor from Plymouth. Debbie's down in Devon's joining us. Mohammed from Egypt. They were doing some cleanup dives around Sharm el Sheikh. So they managed to get into it. That's great. And then we have from Lebanon. Hello, welcome also. So we are now basically on, UK time 3:30, European time 4:30, and that means Utila time is
8:30.
8:30, Texas time
9:30,
and Roatan time
8:30 as well.
Oh, we've got a wide variety here. Okay, so we're on time now, so we'll we shall begin. Just to give a reminder to the people who have joined us, first of all, thank you very much for joining us on this Tech Talk Tuesday. This is now our 5th Tech Talk Tuesday that we've had. They've been really well received. We are super happy with the amount of people every week that's been coming in to either view the interviews either live or watching the replay afterwards. Just a reminder to everybody, so if you have missed any of the previous Tech Talk Tuesdays or even the Free Dive Fridays, Scuba Sundays, then do not fret, just scroll down the Facebook page and you will find still all of these presentations live. If you need to leave our interview for any reason, something more important comes up, then again, don't worry, you can just check back in with us later on and find the whole thing that you can watch from start to finish. We do like these interviews to be interactive. So if you have any particular questions on the topic that we're talking about, whether it's the location, whether it's the diving, whether it's the training, then please just feel free within Facebook in the chat section, just write in whatever question that you have. Our colleague Adam is in the background, ready and waiting to take a look at your questions. And if there's something that he can answer directly, then he will. If he cannot, if it's something specifically about the location or you guys, then he will forward it on to us and we will try and keep up to date with those questions as we go through the interview. If I do miss any, then apologies, but at the end of the session, then I'll be able to catch up as well on them. So just looking in, we've got a few more people now coming in from Lanzarote. Hey, Mark. Gary's in London. Hey, Gary. Heidi's in the USA. Another one from Bournemouth. So we've got a nice international group of viewers looking. So, right, let's start off with a short introduction. You don't have to give us your life history, but just a little bit about who you are, where you're based, and what you do. So how about Andy? You want to start us off?
Yeah. Okay. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Andy Egan. I'm based here in Roatan in Honduras. And basically, I'm here to help with the SSI office and promote the XR professional training and see where we can go from there. So quick and sweet. All
righty. Hey, Andy. Janine, you're up.
I am one of 3 instructors that own Tank Scuba in a town outside of Lubbock, Texas. I also own the Odyssey Resort in Utila. And so I teach, I go back and forth and teach a couple months here, a couple months there, and then switch back. In Honduras, I teach both on Utila and Roatan. So when I'm in Roatan, I teach at at Infinity Divers. Do extended range there and some pro stuff. And then on Utila, anytime Greg wants my help at Captain Morgan's, I love working with him. So, just kind of go where I'm needed.
You get the best of both worlds. You get to be home in Texas doing your stuff and then having this nice life on these lovely islands.
Oh, definitely.
That's living the dream of the dive professional right there.
I agree.
Greg.
Yes, I'm an instructor trainer at Captain Morgan's on the island of Utila, Honduras. Kind of run the dive operation end of things as much as I can. And I'm just trying to get XR going. We're still kind of working on it.
Yeah. And for those who are watching this presentation, this interview, just to fill you in, we're going to cover actually a couple of different topics during this interview because both Janine and Greg Centers are, let's say, really starting up in technical diving, in the XR diving. And I know there's many training centers out there who would like to get involved in XR, but maybe just don't know where to start or how to start. And so we're going to be firing some questions at Janine and Greg, which will hopefully give people some answers on, those first steps, how to get involved, how to start to grow as an XR center. And then we're also going to be, of course, calling upon these guys for their expertise of the area to see, you know, if I do want to do some extended range diving, what is there around these Bay Islands of Honduras that is to offer? And then Andy's going to be providing us with a lot of the logistical information and the functional information about how to happen. So let's just briefly, a lot of people want to know just a little bit about sort of our history as dive professionals, or why we got into the industry or ended up where we did. So Andy, talk us just quite briefly through how you sort of got into diving, professional diving, and then ended up in Roatan. How did that happen?
I fell in love with diving 20 years ago. When I was still home in Ireland, it was a case of I didn't have the money, had a lot of time. Then when I had the time, there was no money. So once I got to Spain and began working, teaching English, I came across a student who was an instructor. And from there, that was in 2000. And in 2001, I got hooked straight away. So in 2001, I did my open water instructor. And I've been teaching ever since. And I'd actually, one of my first foreign trips was to Roatan.
Okay.
And then 17 years later, almost 20 years later, I ended up back here. So I got here 3 years ago when I was offered the position to help the regional office.
So I mean, Ireland life Roatan's a little bit different than Spain or Ireland.
Lots different than Ireland. Ireland is very cold, as you know, from the UK, but the life here is completely different. It's more relaxed, they're sunny, it's beautiful, there's a lot of good diving.
Yeah.
It's a better infrastructure than I thought of at the beginning, to be honest. And in the last 3 years since I arrived here, it is increasing, it is getting better.
Oh, that's cool. So mainly it was diving that was the original work part, and then the job kind of took you over to the Bay Islands then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Janean, how about you? What got you into then diving, and then how did somebody from Texas suddenly decide that they're going to be doing this work over in Utila and Honduras? Roatan, rather.
Well, my first dive was in 1988, and that was one of those dives where they hand you a BC and a regulator and say, follow me. Zero training, but it was still a good experience. But then I started having kids, and 4 kids later, you know, no money, no time for anything, especially diving. But you know, as soon as the youngest one was old enough to get certified, we got certified as family. And honestly, I mean, if my kids were going to be diving, I was going to know everything there was to know about that to keep them safe. And so I just started, not necessarily on the instructor path in the beginning. It was more of I'm going to learn everything I can to keep my kids safe. And then the more I learned, the more I loved it. And the more I loved it, the more courses I took. And so like currently, I think last time I looked, I'm certified to teach 33 specialties.
Awesome.
And I have more, you know, in the cart, just waiting on a scooter in Honduras to finish up. Maybe a little bit of trimix. So yeah, I've just fallen in love with it, and I'm goal oriented. And so once I've hit one goal, I'm already looking in, you know, my SSI to see what I need for the next course. And so now I'm an assistant instructor trainer, and I have that instructor trainer in my grasp. We just need a seminar. So excited, you know, and with this Corona just kind of put a standstill on that.
Sure.
So soon.
But what was the initial link? Like, you know, with a training center in Texas, you could have taken your customers anywhere around the world to do their open water dives, to take them on experience dives. You've chosen to focus on these Bay Islands, specifically Roatan and Utila. How did that link come? Was that a holiday thing you just did first and enjoyed it, or?
Kind of. I mean, our first dive after we became certified as a family was in Roatan. But, you know, for us in Texas, in Lubbock, flat, dry, no water, we have to travel regardless to get our students certified.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's 3 hours minimum to get to a dive site. And most of the time, you know, it's more like 5, 6, 7 hours. So if we were going to travel that far, we might as well hop on a plane because we can be in Honduras, you know, in 5 or 6 hours. So close. Plus they have clear water, nice deep depths for extended range, easy to get to dive sites, lots of sea life. It's an incredible place. And I just, you know, I want to share it with my divers and with whoever will come and visit us.
That's cool. Greg, how about you? How did you end up, I mean, most of your life on Utila, I think, huh?
Oh, no. I've only been here full time the last 3 years.
Okay.
But I started diving in California when I was in the Marines back in 1980. So I've been doing it a while.
Yeah.
Kind of like Janean's story. My son, when he was 15 or 16, decided he wanted to get certified. I sat in the back of the class and I was kind of impressed with how the class was taught. So he and I took another class together and then I couldn't stop. So it's more classes and then, you know, pro seemed like the next logical option. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping to make it all the way to certifier someday.
Again, just waiting on that training, the training seminars to get kicking off, and then we'll get you all sorted out.
Hopefully Janine and I will be at the same one.
I hope so. Well, fingers crossed, Egypt, March next year, there will be one, so come and join me.
There you go.
There's your invitation right now, right?
Now, as far as how I got to Utila, though, I looked at several different islands over the last like 7, 8 years before I moved here. And I just, as soon as I got to Utila, I sat down and it's like, this is the place. I just knew it.
Just got that feeling.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, friendly people, lots of great diving.
It's kind of funny sometimes when you just know, don't you? You just know that this is where you need to be for now. Okay, let's talk a little bit about then extended range diving around those Bay Islands of Utila and the Roatan. And maybe Andy, you can step in and help us out here. I mean, from a logistics point of view, if somebody wanted to get into any extended range diving, if somebody wanted to add extended range programs to their training facility, from an equipment perspective, how easy or how challenging is it to actually to get the equipment that you need to those islands? So I'm talking like, you know, regulators, backblades, wings, stage tank rigging.
In the beginning, it was slightly difficult. You got to take into account 95% of the business here is recreational diving.
Yeah.
So, and it's considered one of the cheapest places around the world to do it. So a lot of the times the dive centers look at the amount of money they can make from whatever new they bring in. So at the beginning, they didn't really see that there was that much benefit to be made from it. But slowly over time, talking to the dive centers, they've started to see it now as well. For example, you could always pre-order the material. So we've got a Maris store here on Roatan and a Maris store on Utila. So Sergio, the owner of the store, he had no problems in pre-ordering all the material. Now over the last 3 years, and especially since the event that we held with you last July, they've started to see that XR is starting to take off. So now they're looking at, sadly, with what happened worldwide with the virus, they were looking at starting to bring in, you know, twin sets and stuff like that, and starting to bring in some gear. So we're still looking at that avenue. But for example, gear here on the island now, between Greg, Janine, and myself, we've enough for any dive center that needs to use the equipment and to set up training between the dive centers.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think it's important for training centers to understand that if they do want to offer extended range activities, and they should have in-house, you know, a full extended range total diving system for training to happen on that. So that would include the backplates, the wings, the regulators, the deco regulators. But that is great. It sounds as though that through the dive stores that are there, that they can now get access to all of that equipment relatively easily. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's not that difficult now. So thanks to Sergio, we should by the end of this year see actual stock in the store.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Then Greg, talk to me a little bit then about like cylinder wise. How easy is it to get, let's say, hardware for making twin sets and manifolds, twin in bands, or different size stage cylinders?
It's not super simple. Generally, we order them from the States and get them either shipped down, or next time we're home back in the States or somebody's in the States and coming, we have them bring the stuff.
Okay, so people are physically bringing it in by hand.
Yes. Tanks, I brought a 30 and 40s down in my checked luggage.
So is it traveling with minimal clothing then, obviously?
Oh yeah, the clothing's already here, so every trip back's a cargo run.
Okay, but there are still ways and means to get the cylinders that the training centers would need to have for the programs.
Oh yeah. I mean, shipping takes about 3 weeks from the States, so I mean, it can be done.
Yeah, so they just need to be a little bit organized ahead of time, figure out what they need and make those orders.
Yep. Cylinders we can get locally right at the Mari's shop.
Yeah. And Janean, just talk to us a little bit. I mean, you know, Roatan and Utila, as Andy's already said, are predominantly inundated with recreational divers, right? But because you've seen both of those islands, then what would be the reason for these dive centers to look into extended range on those islands? I mean, I understand that yes, they can get depth, but is it actually is it worthwhile destination to pursue extended range there?
Oh, definitely. From Infinity Divers, we can, from the shore, swim and hit the depths that we need to. Both islands have excellent areas to train, to get your foundations down.
Yeah.
To to get used to all of the different skills and everything before we move out to those deeper depths. So for instance, if I were to train someone here in the States, it would be in a murky, dark, cold lake. And so instead of them being able to focus on the skills that we're supposed to be learning, they've got all these other distractions, and those distractions are minimalized a little bit, to where we can focus on the programs. The challenge going between the two islands is the gases. There's a ferry that goes between the two islands, but you have to empty your cylinders, and that doesn't work so well. But I'm in the process of having a boat built with extended range in mind. There are tank holders for the twins right there by the exit, so we're not walking through the recreational divers to get off. As well as an area to do our gear configuration and all of the tools on board, to where students don't have to bring those tools with them, kind of lighten their load a little bit. And then we'll be able to put the gases on there and go from Utila to Roatan and teach either place. So we're going to be ready for them.
Yeah, so that sounds like it's really, specifically geared towards extended range divers. I remember on the boat we were using in Roatan, a standard hard boat, but designed for the recreational divers. Yeah. So there was some challenges of that. So if you're building a boat really geared up for extended range divers, then that would be quite unique in that area. Is anybody else doing that?
No.
Nope.
Oh. There's your unique selling point right by there, huh?
It is.
But Greg, I mean, as Janean says, so, the dive sites are there, the topography is there, the marine life is there. So if everything is there for extended range diving, why do you think not as many people perhaps are going down that route of training or coming over for guided extended range dives as there could be? Do you think there's been a limiting factor somewhere?
Well, I think so far it's just for the fact that we're just starting to get into it. It's been a little bit of a slow grow for us. But it's every time I go out and I'm wearing my twin set, or Andy or Janean are on the boat doing side mount, we get lots of questions and people generate interest from that.
Yeah.
I've taught several independent diver courses, and just having the little pony bottle on with another reg generates a lot of interest and gets people starting to look at extended range.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, in all honesty, you know, when we were prepping for the event last year and we were talking about the Bay Islands, I'd never even heard of the Bay Islands, let alone to know, oh, that means Roatan, Utila, and what's the third one?
Wanaha.
Naha. Do you think that maybe there could be more in the media, more social media, advertising, promotional stuff about extended range diving in the Bay Islands?
I mean, even as a diver, I did not know about Utila until I somehow read something in a scuba magazine somewhere. And it's like, oh, I should check that out. But we have, I mean, the topography underwater here is amazing. I mean, I have a site close where we can jump off the boat, swim about 5 minutes and go down to 50, 60 meters.
Yeah.
On the other side of the island, we have Turtle Harbor. You can jump off the boat and it's a sheer wall down to about 70 meters. And then it slopes off to more than 100.
Wow. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's even more so. So as we said, like the dive sites are there, the depth is there, the marine life is there. Just somehow we need to increase people's awareness that the islands are there, that you guys are there ready to receive people for training and for experience dive.
And we're excited to get going on it.
Absolutely. From then that side, so if you do suddenly get this influx of extended range divers, Andy, how easy is it to get like the consumables that people need? So if somebody was coming over with a rebreather, how is the accessibility of rebreather cylinders, softener lime, oxygen?
In gases, it's easier than it was 3 years ago. Remember when we first tried the event, even before it actually took off, it was, you know, because there's not that much technical diving here. So when you ask the gas suppliers about the tank rentals and stuff like that, it was a new concept to them.
Yeah.
Or relatively new. So that took us a while to finally, we've got cross our fingers, we've got a dealer on the mainland who's given us a pretty decent price considering the price of the gas and can deliver enough tanks to keep us going. Plus we've come to a deal with them where they, you know, they're looking at the possibility that this could be a future outlet for them.
Okay.
On Sorban, stuff like that for rebreathers at the moment, the problem is the amount we would need. But we're looking through a company in the US whose name at this moment in time, I've got it somewhere on my notes, who said they will supply us. But again, it's anything up to a 3-week delivery. If the event, for example, for a rebreather event, we decide to hold one here at the end of the year or next year, if we have dates, getting the material now is a lot easier than it used to be.
So would it be fair to say that at the moment, if somebody is an extended range diver, it's probably easier logistically to cater for an open circuit diver than a rebreather diver, perhaps?
At this moment in time, open circuit, yeah, definitely. Okay. I wouldn't have any qualms with enough time to make sure that we've got gas and the calculated gas needed for all the dives, etc., etc. Yeah. I wouldn't have any qualms in saying we could deal with any open circuit tech diver.
Yeah. And then what about from a gas blending perspective?
Old school.
Yeah, again, does anybody actually have the facility? I saw, Greg, you sent some pictures through, I think, of your blending setup that you've got. How commonplace is that?
There's maybe 1 or 2 in Utila because some of the other dive centers do offer some other, you know, tech diving.
Yeah.
My booster is not even here yet. It's still in the States. You know, with this whole COVID thing, nothing was getting shipped. So,
sure.
But when I get it here, it'll be available for me, Andy, and Janine to use as needed.
Yeah. And are there any other dive filling stations currently there or not at the moment?
In Utila, there is 1 or 2 other places where we could get Trimix, but it is ridiculously expensive. So doing it ourselves is the way to go.
Nobody gets into trimix diving expecting it to be cheap.
No. That's the thing. But take into account because of we are in a high tax bracket area, and everything being on an island. You know, when I started looking around I did try mixed diving in Spain. So once I started getting the prices here, I kind of was like, hey, yeah, let's think about that.
Yeah.
So I rang some people I knew in Mexico to find out as well.
Yeah.
And here in Honduras, the price is slightly higher.
Yeah. So Janine, give us an idea. So we've now figured out that, you know, around these islands, we've got a great location for extended range diving. We've established that the training facilities and the training centers can get the equipment if they need. We can get the gases. So if not as many people are coming over to these islands to do extended range diving, what kind of promo, advertising, incentives would you do? So when you're back at home in Texas and you're chatting away with your customers, what kind of techniques do you use to encourage people either to just get involved in extended range, or if they are already involved, to get them to come with you on one of these excursions over to the islands?
Well, like Greg said, wearing the gear in front of recreational divers creates interest. And usually it creates a conversation. I always do try a side mount for free. I set up the gear, I put it on them, and we just swim in a pool. And we just get used to that feeling. And rarely do they not love it, you know, from the get-go. And maybe it's my excitement and my love for it. I don't know. Maybe it's that.
Passion is addictive. If somebody is passionate about it as an instructor, this is addictive to the student. You're right.
It is, you know, but then another big thing is preparing for a trip, you know. So in end of July, fingers crossed, we're going to Bonaire, and great extended range diving there. So, you know, in preparation for that, I'll be pushing the extended range foundations and the extended range program in just preparation for that. And then in September, the trip is to Cozumel and Cancun. So we'll be talking about overhead environment. Yeah. And so a lot of times trips are a great way to get people's interest into it, sure, knowing that they don't want to be left out. Yeah, of the fun. Yeah. But I'm one of those people who, you know, strongly believes in continuing your education. And so at the dive center, we have 4 instructors, 2 assistant instructors, and one dive master, and all but one have extended range training. And because of that, it makes us better professionals, you know, and better divers. So I don't know, I think a lot of it is just that it's contagious. You kind of catch that extended range bug. Yeah.
So Andy, when you're dealing with and you're going around social-wise chatting, business-wise chatting with these training centers who currently do not offer extended range, what kind of advice would you give to them to start to make that step towards extended range diving?
I always tell them to make small increments in the diving center. One of the biggest challenges they have at the moment in time is the ROI, or the return of investment on what they need to invest in the equipment. So I've got some of the Mari's gear I bring with me, so I let them test that out. I let them play with it. We've got me as an instructor trainer here for XR as well. Will help train up their divers as well. Their divers, their instructors. Yeah. Plus the fact that we've got Janean and Greg also to help train, because a lot of times the owners of the dive centers, sometimes they're not actually instructors here as well. Okay. So it takes them a while to decide, okay, so I've got a person who's in here. Am I going to invest in training them as an instructor where they could possibly disappear off at the end of the year, et cetera, et cetera? Yeah. Because Roatan is a high flow through of instructors. But once they start seeing, and we sit down with them, we go over Excel with them, we go over calculations with them. Yeah. We go over and show them how they can actually change some of the regulators to use as in the beginning for foundations and extended range. And they start to see that the general investment at the beginning isn't as extreme as they thought it is. And then they look at the potential income. Right. That really helps them a lot as well. Plus the fact that they have the Maris store here on both of the islands. They've got a backup. They've already got cylinders here. They can use some of their cylinders to change over. So, and then the programs as well, the exercise programs in themselves with all the digital material, as we all know, that makes life easier for them. So we're slowly getting there.
So I mean, then great from that perspective. If the centers have everything that they need, I guess I think a lot of training centers may be a little bit wary because there are many different types of discipline of technical diving, whether it is twin set diving, so open circuit diving, you've got the deeper trimix diving, we have rebreathers, whether it's semi-closed, whether it's completely closed, we have side mount diving, we have wreck, we have cabin, we have cave, there are so many different programs that fall under this umbrella of extended range or technical diving. And I think sometimes that's a bit intimidating for dive centers. Which kind of programs or what types of diving would you recommend these training facilities to sort of to focus on, maybe to streamline it a little bit? What do you think?
I mean, just to keep the gear down, I think side mount's probably the best option. You don't have to buy the manifolds. You don't have to buy the bands, back plates. As long as you have something that's semi-compatible for a harness, you can hook some tanks on there. It's a good way to get them in fairly cheap.
Yeah.
I do love my twin sets, though.
That's okay. Me too. But I mean, I think I was there, and I'm going to try and do something technical here and share my screen because you do have some recs over there. Let me see if I can open something up. Share.
That's the Halliburton.
Okay, so what can you guys actually see? Can you see a rec?
Yes.
Okay. So if I scroll down through my pictures, so what type of wreck are we dealing with here?
It's a 30-meter cargo ship sunk right out in front of the town of Uttila.
Yeah.
Sits at 30 meters to the sand.
Okay.
You can see there's 3 levels to the pilot house. It's pretty well cleaned out. So, I mean, if you want to do penetration, you can do it. It's been there since 1998, so there is some deterioration. There's some cables hanging, some pipes hanging that didn't used to be.
Is it suitable for extended range rec training?
Oh yeah, very, very much so.
It looks like a fair amount of marine life on it as well.
There is. In fact, in one of the levels at night, if you're doing a night dive on that, there's a turtle that sleeps in there.
Okay. And I guess is it quite busy with recreational divers, or the recreational divers, do they tend to stick to the reef dives?
Well, it's pretty common to be used by a lot of the shops because they do advanced adventurer, and one of the dives we offer is the wreck dive.
Yeah.
But it's never really that busy. There's 2 moorings for it, so max you're going to have is 2 boats on it.
Okay, so that's kind of nice, and especially when you want to do the training, because if you're laying lines and doing penetration, you don't really want to be having that many other people around.
Right.
Janine, what about is there caverns, caves?
On Uttila, there are a couple caves. Andy and I are in the process of, trying to get that program started.
Okay.
It's kind of a small opening to get in, but once you're in, it's completely open and nice and big. And
okay, when you say small, how small are you talking? Are we wiggling in or what?
Push the gear through, army crawl through the mud, but once you're in there, it's open and it's very, very safe. And I cannot wait to get back there and get back in that thing. And then, and that's on Uttila, and both places we have, for training for caves, we have swim throughs. Let's practice in a swim through first, and now let's get a little bit smaller and opening. But and then on Roatan there are actually 3 wrecks over there. The El Aguilar and the Odyssey, they're both at about 33 meters. And the Odyssey especially is good for overhead environment training. You can get in there, lay lines, do directional markers, all that good stuff. And Andy, in his course, he puts a blinder on you. So 0 visibility. And that is actually a blast to do. But then the Josie J, it's a little deeper. It's 50 to 60 meters.
Nice.
And so we trimix for that one. But an awesome dive site. And they have, they have the swim-throughs in the little, caves that are yet to be discovered over there.
That's cool. Exploration is the awesome part about it, isn't it? That's why we all want to do it.
Yeah, and that's a passion of Andy's and mine, is to find those and explore.
For sure. Listen, Andy, talk to me a little bit about diving logistics, shore diving or boat diving. I'm going to again share my screen because I want to show people like the type of boats that you guys are using. Is generally, so the picture I have now, hopefully again you can see it, is this sort of like common size boats?
This would be the common size boat for the bigger dive centers. You have smaller boats as well, but generally most of the dive centers will run off this type of boat. So they're all prepared for recreational divers. They generally, anything between 10 and 15 divers. They'll go out for a double dive in the morning. They're not ready for twin sets yet, not like Janean's new boat's going to be, but we're slowly trying to get them thinking into when they start doing repairs and stuff like that on the boats in the off season. To maybe add in a couple of little tank holders for the twin sets, just to make it a little more comfortable. Even though saying that, we haven't had any problems on the boats at all with them.
But it's good. So it's not, what I would call in the Red Sea, rib diving from a Zodiac, where you pull it off the side and you got to climb back in over the side. Is it anything like that? No.
You do have the smaller boats that they're not as comfortable for technical diving. So you're talking maybe, think of a 7 or 8 meter rib, but a hard deck boat.
Okay.
So it's the same style. So they're generally for the smaller dive centers, because at the end of the day, a boat like this is a big inversion here in Roatan.
Sure.
But no. The boats are very comfortable here for technical diving.
Okay.
But I would prefer them to be specific.
Yeah. And Greg, on the boats that you're using, I mean, typically it's single tank trip, out and back, boat does 2 trips. What's a typical day?
Well, Captain Morgan's, we leave the dock at 7 a.m. And for a 2-tank dive. We try to get over to the north side, maybe do 1 dive there, come back, do a dive on the south side. Both excellent areas, just different terrain. And then if we need to, we have an afternoon boat and maybe a night dive.
And so for extended range divers, so they would go on the same boat, or then they could go out separately?
Well, we also have a smaller boat, kind of like Andy was saying, that's about, 8 meters long, hard sides. And we may dedicate that just to use for the extended range. Okay.
So we've got basically, there's options there. I mean, I think one of the reasons sometimes people are hesitant to join extended range diving activities, they think that they're going to be limited by the recreational divers.
Correct.
So it's good to hear if they can go out on their own boat, they can do their own profile. You don't want to spend all the money, go over there and then find that your dives are limited because, skipper says you've got to be back on the boat for the recreational divers in 1 hour.
Correct.
So Janine, when you're taking your divers over, so it'll be like for a week, would it be a week of pure extended range diving, or you do sort of a mixture, recreational, mixture of technical?
I like to start the foundations well in advance. I want buoyancy and trim down pat so that they're finning, so that they're ready to start the more advanced skills and not be worrying about that. So I do like to do all of that, all the academic, beforehand. So that
Yeah.
by the time we get there, we are jumping in the water, start shallow, kind of relearn, because here we're in freshwater, there's salt water. So then once we get there, get started, and at least a good 5 days of training there, and then recreational after that if they want to, or after that then we can just still wear our extended range gear, but on within the recreational dive limits, but still have fun with our new gear and all the new toys.
Yeah, but that makes sense though, doesn't it? I mean, start up some warm-up dives, get everybody comfortable, then they're super happy for the rest of the week. Andy,
Yeah.
I'm going to call upon your geography skills now. So
Oh,
I'm going
God.
to do another screen share. For people like me, when I was coming to the islands, I had no idea where they were or anything like that. So hopefully now everybody can see a map. Have I screen shared a map yet?
I'm seeing a wedge of it.
I'm seeing a tiny bit of the map only.
Okay, is that bigger?
No.
No.
Oh.
So even with that map, my geography is terrible.
Why is that not going big? So while I try and figure out how to get the map bigger, talk to us a little bit about Roatan. So somebody's going to Roatan. You've obviously got northeast, south, and west. How do they know where to go? Where's going to be the better diving?
The majority of the diving is centered around West End and West Bay. So it's also basically because it's where the majority of the places are built up.
Yeah.
So it's also because of the prevailing wind. It's where generally most of it, because they do double dives in the morning, it's where in the morning generally the wind is pretty relaxed. So then you've got the trade wind side of the island where there are some dive sites, but it's slightly rougher. You can go out towards the east of the island. If you look up towards, you'll see Mary's Place, Cocoa View Wall, and Captain is where, for example, Fantasy was based, where we did the course. So you've got the same type of diving. So if you see down there, West End, Mandy's Eel Garden, Half Moon Bay, the Odyssey Wreck, that is where the majority of the diving is done on Roatan.
And so if somebody was going to be staying down then, Sandy Bay, West End area, boat trips could go all the way to the opposite side of the island. Would that be realistic?
Yeah, the furthest it generally would go would be Mary's Place because of time constraints. So if you look there if you go down West End, right to the very point, that's West Bay. So you've got TGI, you've got Roatan Dive Center, you've got Infinity, are based out of West Bay, and they would do Mary's Place. You're talking maybe if they went by boat, it could be 45 minutes on the boat, 50 minutes on the boat. So they would do a typical double dive to do Mary's Place, and then on the way back, they drop off on another, probably on the point of the island. So it's pretty relaxed that way.
And in terms of like times of year, is there a better, worse?
It's actually strange. When you can hear first, the high season is the rainy season.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So you're talking September through November, then middle of December through January, and then picking up again around Easter. There is the high season. Whereas, for example, if you look at in Europe, for us, June, July, August, September would be considered our high season.
Yeah.
Here, the place is not dead, but it's not as packed. And the great thing is it's sunny as hell. No rain whatsoever. But it's based on, take into account that a lot here is based off the Americans. So in the winter, if they get winter holidays, they want to go to somewhere warmer.
Yeah.
And in the summer, they stay around their own area. So.
Okay, so Greg, I'm now going to call upon you. So I'm hopefully going to be zooming in a little bit on Utila. I mean, you know, the first thing that strikes me, and I haven't been to Utila, but it is considerably smaller than Roatan, which is already small. So how many times can you swim around the island?
I haven't tried.
So what's the typical, where's the best place to dive? It looks like most of the sites are sort of northwest.
Oh, no. The island's got probably 60 dive sites all the way around it. They're only showing a few here.
Okay.
We've got like a big seamound right out off the southeast corner called Black Hills. Amazing dive. You can get anything from 10 meters down to about 40, 50 meters. Lots of big marine life. CJ's drop off, which you can see on the map, is what we call the north side. That's Turtle Harbor. That's where the sheer walls are. But anywhere around there, there's a bunch of little keys. There's seamounds everywhere. We don't really have too many bad dive sites except maybe right in the bay. And we only go to those if it's the only place we can go because of weather.
Yeah.
Halliburton, as you can see, it's about a 5-minute drive out of the dive center.
So like everything is super close. The nice thing is for those people who get hesitant about, you know, long boat rides because of seasickness and stuff like that. I mean, I guess your traveling times are super short.
Takes us about an hour and a half to go all the way around the island.
Okay, so from the dive store to the furthest dive site?
45 minutes probably.
Yeah, that's, you know, relatively speaking, that's quite a short amount of time, isn't it?
Yeah, and then a lot of times we'll just keep going in the same direction and hit another dive site on the way back. And,
yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
Okay. So I just want to finally talk about, because again, like I had the issue when I was coming over to Roatan for the first time, is trying to figure out, you know, how the heck am I actually gonna get there? So we'll split this up a little bit. Maybe Janine, can you give us some advice? How can people from the US side of the world get to either Utila or Roatan as painless as possible?
We always fly from Houston into San Pedro Sula. And then from San Pedro Sula, we take CM to either Roatan or Utila. The reason that we do that is because in San Pedro Sula, they don't look in your luggage quite as exclusively. In Roatan, they do. And you have to realize I love my gear, and so I take good care of my gear. So it does look new, even though it's not. And they always, in Roatan, they try to tax me because they think I'm bringing it in to sell. I mean, who brings 3 regulator sets, 4 regulator sets when they're traveling? So they think I'm trying to sell it. They try to tax me. And it's like, no, this is mine, I promise. But one big tip is if you are bringing new stuff, take it out of the package. Wrap it in an old dirty sock or something, make it look like you had it forever. But yeah, come in through San Pedro Sula, and then there are ferries that will take you from Utila to Roatan. You just can't carry, you know, cylinders full of gases on there. You have to empty them first, but it's pretty painless, you know, from where we are at, you know, within 6 hours, I can be there, and then a little layover, you know, an hour or so in San Pedro Sula, and then hop the rest of the way over. And it seems like Greg and my trips are always usually pretty coordinated to where we always have each other to chat with at that airport. So that little layover time goes by quickly.
So that's quite interesting. I mean, and good information about Roatan Airport, actually, because, you know, when you ask the question, well, who travels with 3 regulators and, well, that's like every single tech diver, right? So that's good information for us to know that if we do have any shiny stuff, which typically lots of us do, to make sure that it doesn't look like it's coming out of that package or so.
And I split it between bags. You know, there's no way you can just bring one suitcase. So put some in one, some in another, maybe some in carry-on, kind of split it up. And, you know, Greg and Andy and I all have, you know, a backstash of double enders and tank band straps and things to where if people don't have room to bring those, we can rent you those. I have every imaginable tool, so does Greg, to work on our gear and do actually service on the gear. So Leave your tools at home. We'll have them for you.
Yeah.
Save you a little bit of weight.
Tell me though, so when I was looking to come over, I was also looking at going to La Ceiba on the mainland of Honduras and then potentially getting the ferry over. Greg, is that an okay way to travel? Recommended, not recommended? I mean, I didn't in the end, so I don't know if it would have worked out.
No, we have the ferry is amazing. It's a huge, Cat Braun style ferry. Like from La Ceiba to Utila, the fare is $25 US.
Okay.
I think to Roatan, it's a different ferry from La Ceiba. It might be a little bit more because it's further.
Yeah.
But the problem there is when you fly into San Pedro Sula, you have to take a bus or rent a car or something, a shuttle, something to get you up to La Ceiba, which is about a 3-hour drive.
So it's sort of adding another complication to the journey, maybe.
Yeah. It's not hard to do.
Yeah.
And if you have 2 or 3 people traveling, it still saves you money.
Yeah.
But the ferry's a great way to go.
Should we say you could add to the adventure driving around in Honduras?
It's definitely an adventure.
Okay. Andy, what about from us folk, the other side of the pond? So people coming in from the Europe side. What's the easiest, quickest, cheapest? How are we going to get there?
The one I recommend, it depending on the time frame. Air Europa, for example, do a direct flight Madrid to San Pedro. And generally through the booking agent, you get the flight with CM to either Roatan or Utila.
Yeah.
So that's the most direct route.
But you got to get to Madrid first.
Yeah, they do a Thursday to Thursday, and now they're going to open up a Tuesday to Tuesday as well. So you can get on Tuesday, come back on a Thursday, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Either way, if not, you've got to go to the States.
Yeah.
Or I have seen one flight cheaper, but it's throwing you around most of Latin America.
Yeah. And I think actually the way that I did it was the way that you said, to go through the States. So I flew London direct to Houston, overnight in Houston, and then Houston to Roatan.
Yeah, that's it. If you're Ireland or the UK, you've got to do it that way. Because if not, you got to do the Madrid flight.
Yeah.
It really depends on the time. For example, they were looking at reducing the price. I won't put my hand in the fire about that one, but the Madrid return from Madrid to Roatan was about just over €1,000.
Okay, that's not actually so bad for the distances that we're covering.
Yeah, so it does stick you to that timetable at the moment of Thursday to Thursday.
Yeah,
but
so I think we can say that, okay, whether you're coming in from the US, whether you're coming in from Europe, it's not actually as complicated as people may have thought it was to actually get to these islands. I think it's actually quite simple, right?
Yeah, no, the travel infrastructure that they have here is, for where we are, is pretty good. And they're opening up more flights. Okay. Roatan is in the middle of expansion at the moment for the airport as well.
And then a final question for each of you. Is there anything on the islands that you still can't get? So for the traveler coming over on their holiday, you would say, right, remember, bring this with you. Could be a shopping stuff, could be a food stuff, could be a liquid stuff. What is that essential thing that you still can't get? Janine? Really
nothing. I mean, the funny thing is bungee. It seems basic, but if you run out of bungee, you're going to go to Ace and you're going to buy a typical bungee, cut the plastic ends off, and use what they have. If you don't have your double enders and P clips, you're going to buy them at Ace Hardware, and they're not the best quality, for diving.
So come with lots of spares, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, that is extended range diving. We always have redundancies, so let's do that when we travel too.
What about Greg, from your perspective? Anything you can't get? Anything you miss?
No, actually, no. I mean, as far as scuba gear, I mean, I have 2 or 3 of everything just because something's going to break. Utila is hard on gear and the weather, the environment. Okay. Food things, I get those when I go back. So
there's got to be a food stuff. Andy's got to be missing some cabbage or potato, surely.
No, luckily they even have their own type of potato here, so I'm cool on that, eh? They have a sweet potato. But no, I was actually quite surprised that in diving, you have to prepare. You have to have everything that you need here. You know, you got to understand where you are. But food-wise, for example, one of the biggest shopping centers here, Eldon's, has everything. It even has cider.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Life is complete, right?
You know, they didn't have it at the beginning, and I pestered them enough, and now they do.
Anything just to keep you off their back.
That was basically it. Was basically a story of if we buy cider, will you leave us alone? I said yes. The following week, I had a case of cider.
All right, that is awesome, guys. Listen, thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best with sort of the easing of the lockdown. Hopefully, you can all get back into waters, either around your home area or when your tourists get coming back out to the islands. But tell me, what is the first thing you're going to be doing once lockdown completely ends? Where's the first place you're going to be going, Greg?
Probably the dive shop to start working on gear.
That's a fair shout. I asked for that one. Yeah, Janine.
Back to Utila. You know, it's hard having a resort there and not being able to be there. I check the flights regularly, and I've had reservations, and they keep canceling that reservation, and then I call and I say, okay, when's the next flight? When's the next flight?
Yeah.
And I'll just keep doing that to where I'm on that first flight back. Because one thing we didn't mention are the whale sharks in Utila, and
Is that a thing? I mean, or is that like a bit of a luck, a fluky passing, or is that really a thing?
Utila is known for their whale sharks, and they're known as the whale capital of the Caribbean. So you can find them, off and on throughout the year, but mainly, spring, fall months. And they're incredible animals, and everybody needs to get over there to see those.
So I think what you're referring to would be that then.
Yeah.
Aren't they beautiful?
See, when you shared these pictures with me, I was like, yeah, do I show the whale shark? Because it's maybe one every 2 years or something. I was like,
oh, no,
let's not give people a false representation.
No.
No, we generally see them every year.
No, that's very lucky. Awesome.
There's dolphins too. Anytime on either island, anytime we come across the pod of dolphins, they stop the boat and they let us hop off in our snorkeling gear and swim with them, and it's an incredible experience.
Very nice. All right. Okie dokie, guys. So I don't keep you any longer.
Thank you.
Take care to all of you. Thank you so much for your time and all your expert knowledge on these Bay Islands. Hopefully we've given people a little bit of an insight now, not only to where you are in the world, what there is actually available there to do in terms of diving, and how they're going to get over to you. Now we just need to start putting that out there to make the world aware of where you are.
Oh, yeah.
All righty. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Huh?
Bye. Take care.